Hello and welcome to my review of Metropolis, the anime movie. Before we begin, I just want to mention it right now. I have not read the manga this movie is based on, so I can only talk about how well or not I think it stands as a movie, not how faithful it is to the source material. With that said, let's talk about the film, shall we? So the plot takes place in the future where not only humans and robots coexist, but it also causes conflict with the impoverished citizens. And on top of that, a complex called the Ziggurat is completed. There we see both the wealthiest citizen, Duke Red, played by Jameson Price at the English dub, and Taru Ishida, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, in the Japanese version, and his son Rock, played by Michael Reyes in the English dub, and Hiroki Okada in the Japanese version, lead the Mardukes, a former political party turned vigilante group who destroy malfunctioning robots or robots that are outside their set zone. We are then introduced to Detective Shusanku Ban, played by Tony Pope in the English dub, and Kosei Tomita, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, in the Japanese version, and his nephew Kenichi Shikishima, played by Brian Brosey, the English dub, and Kei Kobayashi in the Japanese version, who are there to apprehend Dr. Lawton, played by Simon Prescott in the English dub, and Junpei Takaguchi, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, in the Japanese version for organ trafficking and various other human rights violations. What they don't know is Dr. Lawton was hired by Duke Red to secretly build an advanced android modeled after his deceased daughter Tima. Eventually, Rock mortally wounds Dr. Lawton, and as the film progresses, Kenichi discovers Tima when she's activated and falls to the sewers, and there's many questions regarding Tima as well as the ziggurat that you'll have to watch the movie to find out. That's all the plot I'll mention, so now it's time for me to discuss what I liked about Metropolis, what I didn't like about this movie, some trivia, and my overall opinion. What I liked about the movie right off the bat is that the animation is amazing. The beginning gives a sense of scale and life. Another example is that we see the many zones of Metropolis, which includes the area where Dr. Lotto is creating Tima and was hoping to escape once he's done, to even the sewer levels. It's all very fluid and there is very little dip in quality, except for one nitpick that I'll mention later. The dubbing for its time is also good. Brian Brosey as Kenichi I thought did a great job whenever he and Tima were on screen together. One scene that I think is a good example is shortly after he saves Tima from the fire and Dr. Lawton succumbs to his injuries, and they are in the sewer where he tries to talk to her like a human, and she doesn't get the grasp of it. That scene was charming with the performances being a factor. Jameson Price was fantastic as Duke Red, and showing how unloving he can be, like when he outright refuses to call Rock his son. You can hear the disdain he has for Rock, especially when he's in charge of security in Metropolis. The last person I'll mention as far as the English dub goes is Michael Reyes as Rock, who really does a good job in showing the cruelty of the character, like how through his performance we see how he'll stop at nothing to kill a Tima, even killing a plant worker and heavily damage a robot known as Fifi because they got in his way or were trying to protect Tima, which leads to a chase scene. Another example is when he coerced a maid by tricking Tima into thinking she was seeing Kenichi and he laughs that she thinks she's human. You can hear the condescension in his voice, and it really makes Rock despicable. Overall, I think he gave the best performance as far as the English dub goes. There are other people I can mention, like Dave Mallow as Peril, Simon Prescott as Dr. Lawton, and even Scott Wagner as Atlas, but aside from saying the performances were good overall, there isn't much I could say that wouldn't be repetitive or needlessly drag this review out. While the English dub is good, and I don't think you could go wrong with it if that is your preference, I personally think the Japanese version might be a little better. Kei Kobayashi did a really good job as Kenichi, especially since, as far as I can see, it's his only acting credit. One example, like with the English dub, is when they're in the sewer level and he tries to do basic introductions with Tima. I just found that whole exchange charming, with both performances being a factor into it. Taru Ishida was fantastic at giving Duke Red's voice some authority to it. A scene that shows this is actually the beginning where he announces the creation of the ziggurat. He delivered it with such conviction that it made it a big deal, which, considering how the rest of the story plays out, it very much is. The last person I'll mention as far as the Japanese version goes is Hiroki Okada as Rock, who, like with the English dub, nails the cruelty of the character. The best scene that showcased how good his performance is after he tricked Tima into meeting him and he condescendingly talks to her about being a robot and laughs off when Tima thinks she's human, as well as thinks her father is Kenichi since he was the first human she ever met. And through the performance, it makes you hate the character in a good way. There are other people I could mention, like Yuka Amato as Tima, Kosei Tomita as Detective Shisaku Ban, and Norio Wakamoto as Pero. But besides from saying the performances work, like with the English dub, there wouldn't be a lot I could say that wouldn't be repetitive or needlessly drag this review out. The music by Toshiyuki Honda is wonderful, ranging from the jazz tunes to the use of string instruments. With the former, I point out to the opening scene when the ziggurat is open and we see the city booming with life. It makes it feel humongous in scale. That I thought was a nice touch because it added to the scene. And with the latter, for the same reason, is when Duke Red rips Rock's armband off after he discovered the Tima he had Dr. Lawton make was alive all along, despite Rock saying nobody survived the fire. Lastly, the story, even though some beats felt pretty similar to other stuff I've seen, I thought was engaging. I really like the themes they have when it comes to humans and machines. One example is what leads to Peril's death when a resistance is about to destroy robots and attempt to take Duke Red down, only to be revealed they fell into a trap, and Atlas explains that humans are emotional by nature and move forward through destruction. That brief philosophical talk was important not just because a full-scale war erupts when it's crossfaded to this military officer's grinning, but also because it ties into the themes they are giving. Just overall, the story I think is well told. Now to discuss what I didn't like about Metropolis. Well, I do have one nitpick, but it doesn't hurt the movie whatsoever in my opinion. The nitpick is while the animation is fantastic overall, they do use CG in a number of shots, and while some of it worked, in other cases I don't think it's aged well. Something about the rendering of it makes it stick out like a sore thumb. This is a nitpick because it hardly hurts the movie at all, and it's easy to look past it. Time for some trivia. It's based on a manga of the same name by the godfather of manga himself, Osamu Tezuka, who I'm sure most would recognize his work like Astro Boy or Mighty Atom, Kimba the White Lion, and Princess Knight. If you watch the bonus features, they say in the making of it that it was in production for 5 years with a total of 150,000 animation cells. The writer for this movie is Katsuhiro Otomo, who I'm sure most people would know him best for making the manga and direct the anime film adaptation of Akira, and he also directed Steam Boy. The director of this movie is Rentaro, who also directed Galaxy Express 999 and X. The animation studio who worked on this movie is Madhouse, and if we listed everything they did, we'd be here all day. But to list just 3, they also did the animation for Death Note, Black Lagoon, and most recently Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Some of the other roles the cast of the English dub did includes Brienne Brosy, who I'm sure many of you would know best as the voice of Koromon in Digimon Adventure. She also played James Jim Hawking in Outlaw Star, and Naoki in Naruto. Michael Reyes, who played Yamato or Matt Ishida from Digimon Adventure, Ice Devimon in Digimon Tamers, and Mizuki in Naruto. The last person I'll mention as far as the English dub goes is Jamison Price, who also played Ryder, aka Ishkandar, King of Conquerors from Fate Zero, Lord Genome in Gurren Lagann, and Yatsutora Sato, aka Chad, in most of the original Bleach anime. As for the Japanese version, some of the other roles they did include Taro Ushida, who also played the Nightmare King in Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland, Count Cagliostro in Castle of Cagliostro, and he even made an appearance in Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. The last person I'll mention is Norio Wakamoto, who also played Cell in the Dragon Ball franchise, Goki in Yu Yu Hakusho, and Vicious in Cowboy Bebop. Overall, Metropolis is a wonderful anime movie. The animation is amazing, the voice acting is good, and the story I found engaging. Even the low nitpick I gave I don't think is remotely strong enough to hurt this movie. While watching it, I could see the passion and heart that went into this. I highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of anime, and it would be a worthy addition to your home video collection. I give Metropolis a 9 out of 10 because the good stuff is too great to ignore, and it's one that I feel is underrated. This concludes my review of Metropolis. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the movie in the comments down below, and have a nice day.